The snow fell softly on Riverside Park that December evening, each flake catching the glow of the Christmas lights strung along the pathway. Laura Mitchell sat alone on a wooden bench, her tailored camel coat wrapped tight against the cold. Her honey blonde hair was styled in an elegant updo, but her carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the tears streaming down her face. At 42, Laura had built an empire. 300 employees looked to her for direction. Magazines featured her success story. But tonight, none of that mattered. She was just a daughter who had lost her father 2 weeks before Christmas. The decorated tree behind her sparkled with golden ornaments and red ribbons. Families passed by, their laughter echoing through the winter air. Laura watched them, feeling the sharp edge of loneliness cut deeper with each happy voice. She didn't notice the little boy approaching until a small mittened hand touched her arm. "Don't cry, miss." Laura looked down through blurred vision. A child stood before her, maybe 4 years old, wearing a blue puffy jacket and a white knitted hat with stripes. His round cheeks were pink from the cold, and his eyes held genuine concern. "Sweetheart, I'm all right," Laura managed, wiping her face quickly. The little boy tilted his head, studying Laura with a serious expression only children can master. "You don't look all right. My daddy says it's okay to cry, but you look very sad." Laura felt her composure crumbling again. She nodded, unable to speak. The child reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden toy, a hand-carved reindeer. "You can hold Asher if you want. He makes me feel better when I'm sad." The gesture broke something open in Laura's chest. She accepted the toy with trembling hands. "Thank you. That's very kind. I'm Theo," the boy announced, then pointed back toward the man approaching them. "That's my daddy. He's really good at making people feel better." The man wore a black wool coat over a white shirt. His dark hair was slightly tousled by the wind, and concern filled his brown eyes as he hurried toward them. "Theo, you can't just run off like that," he said gently, then noticed Laura's tear-stained face. His expression shifted to understanding. "I'm sorry. Is he bothering you?" "No," Laura said quickly. "He's wonderful, actually. He just showed me more kindness than I've felt in weeks." The man knelt beside his son, speaking softly. "Theo, what do we talk about giving people space?" Theo looked between his father and Laura, then back at his father with determination. "But Daddy," she's crying. "Miss, you can borrow my dad. He's really good at fixing sad." Despite everything, Laura laughed. It came out watery and broken, but it was genuine. The man looked embarrassed but smiled. "I'm James," he said, extending his hand. "And my son apparently thinks I'm available for rent." Laura, she shook his hand, surprised by the warmth in his grip. "And I think your son might be wiser than both of us." James sat down on the bench, keeping a respectful distance. Theo climbed up between them, swinging his legs. "We come here every Friday," Theo announced. "Daddy says the lights remind us that even dark times have brightness." Laura looked at James, seeing a depth of experience in his eyes. "That's beautiful. My wife passed away 2 years ago," James said quietly. "Cancer." Theo was only 2. He doesn't remember much. "But we come here because Olivia loved Christmas." The words hung in the cold air. Laura understood then why this child recognized grief when he saw it. "My father died 2 weeks ago," Laura heard herself say. "Heart attack. He was 68. I thought we'd have more time." Her voice broke. Theo reached over and patted Laura's hand. "It's okay to miss people. Daddy says the people we love never really leave us. They live in here." He pressed his small hand against Laura's coat right over her heart. Laura covered Theo's hand with her own, tears flowing freely now. "You're right, sweetheart. You're absolutely right." James pulled a clean handkerchief from his pocket and offered it to Laura. She accepted it gratefully. "I'm supposed to be strong," Laura said. "I run a company. Hundreds of people depend on me." But sitting in my office, looking at the empty chair where my father used to sit when he visited, I couldn't do it anymore. I just walked out. "Strength isn't pretending you don't hurt," James said. "I learned that the hard way after Olivia died. I try to be strong for Theo. I held everything in until one day I broke down in a grocery store. A stranger sat with me for an hour just listening. Sometimes we need permission to fall apart." Theo leaned against Laura's arm. "Daddy cries sometimes. I hear him at night, but then he wakes up and makes me pancakes and we're okay." The honesty in the child's voice moved Laura deeply. She looked at this little family, seeing their resilience and their pain intertwined. "How do you do it?" Laura asked. "How do you keep going?" James was quiet for a moment, watching the snowfall. "One day at a time. Some days, 1 hour at a time. I focus on Theo. I focus on the small joys. A good cup of coffee, Theo's laugh, nights like this when the world feels peaceful. And I talk to Olivia. I tell her about our son, about my day. I think she hears me. "Do you work?" Laura asked. "I'm a teacher," James said. "High school literature. It doesn't pay much, but it lets me be there for Theo. Afternoons, evenings, weekends. What we lost in income, we gained in time together." Laura thought about her own life, the endless meetings, the business dinners, the weekends in the office. She'd built her success partly to make her father proud. He'd started the company from nothing, and she'd expanded it beyond his dreams. But in doing so, had she missed what truly truly mattered. My father used to tell me to slow down, she said. He'd say money comes and goes, but moments don't. I never listened. I thought there would be time. Theo tugged on Laura's sleeve. Do you have pictures of your daddy? Laura pulled out her phone, scrolling to a recent photo. Her father stood in front of the company building, gray-haired and distinguished, pride shining in his eyes. She showed it to Theo. He looks nice, Theo said simply. Like he gave good hugs. The best hugs, Laura whispered. They sat together as the evening deepened around them. The park continued its rhythm. Couples strolled by. Children played in the snow. The Christmas tree glowed steadily. James began to speak, his voice measured and thoughtful. After Olivia died, a grief counselor told me something I think about often. She said grief is love with nowhere to go. All that love we had for the person, it doesn't disappear when they die. It just needs a new direction. What did you do with yours? Laura asked. I put it into Theo, James said, ruffling his son's hat. I put it into my students. I put it into living the kind of life Olivia would want me to live. Not moving on, but moving forward with her memory beside me. Laura nodded slowly. My father wanted me to find balance. He used to joke that I'd work myself into an early grave. Now he's gone, and I'm realizing he was right. What was I working so hard for? To prove myself to him, to the world. Maybe, James said gently, or maybe you were running from something. Only you can answer that. But I can tell you this. It's never too late to change course. Theo yawned, leaning heavily against Laura. I'm sleepy, Daddy. I know, buddy. We should head home. James stood, scooping Theo into his arms. The child's head dropped onto his shoulder immediately. Laura stood too, reluctant for the evening to end. Thank you, both of you. You have no idea what this meant to me. James shifted Theo's weight, then reached into his pocket with one hand. I'm going to do something forward and you can say no. He offered her a card. My number, if you ever need someone to talk to. Someone who understands. Laura took the offered card. I'd like that very much. We're here most Friday evenings, James said. Weather permitting, if you ever want company. Laura watched them walk away. James's tall figure bent protectively over his small son. Something had shifted in her heart. The crushing loneliness had eased, replaced by a different feeling. Hope maybe or possibility. She looked down at the wooden reindeer still in her hand. Theo had forgotten it. She smiled and tucked it carefully into her pocket. That night, back in her apartment, Laura didn't retreat to her home office like usual. Instead, she made tea and sat by the window, watching the snow. She thought about her father, about James's words, about Theo's innocent wisdom. Over the following weeks, Laura returned to the park every Friday. She and James talked for hours while Theo played. Theo would periodically run back to check on them, bringing treasures, pine cones, interesting leaves. Once a very confused beetle. Laura learned about James's life as a widower, his struggles and small victories. James learned about Laura's business, her relationship with her father, her fears about the future. They shared stories, memories, comfortable silences. On Christmas Eve, Laura made a decision. She called her executive team. I'm stepping back, she announced, promoting from within. I'll stay on as chairman, but someone else can run the daily operations. I need to live, not just work. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Approval and relief in equal measure. That evening, she found James and Theo at the park. They had brought cookies. Theo ran to Laura immediately, throwing his arms around her legs. You came. We thought maybe you wouldn't. I wouldn't miss it, Laura said, meaning it. She handed Theo a wrap box. For you. Early Christmas present. Theo tore it open to reveal a beautiful wooden dollhouse handcrafted with intricate details. His eyes went wide. It's perfect. I thought Dasher might like a home, Laura said, pulling the little reindeer from her pocket. I've been keeping him safe. James's eyes were suspiciously bright. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, Laura said simply. They walked through the park together, the three of them. The Christmas lights reflected off the snow, casting everything in a warm glow. Theo walked between them, holding both their hands. This is my favorite Christmas, he announced, because we're all together. Laura squeezed the small hand in hers, looking over Theo's head to meet James's gaze. Something passed between them. Understanding, possibility, hope. Life, Laura realized, had a way of bringing people together when they needed it most. A grieving daughter, a widowed father, a child who understood more about love and loss than anyone his age should. They'd found each other in pain and created something new. Not a replacement for what they'd lost. Nothing could do that, but a new chapter written with care and growing affection. As they stood beneath the glowing Christmas tree, Laura felt her father's presence not as an absence, but as a blessing. He would have liked James, she thought. He would have loved Theo, and he would have been proud that Laura had finally learned to slow down, to see what mattered. The snow continued to fall, soft and steady, covering the world in quiet grace. Laura tilted her face up to it, feeling truly peaceful for the first time in months. Thank you, she whispered to the sky, to her father, to fate, to the universe that had sent a little boy in a blue jacket to teach her about healing. Theo tugged her hand. What did you say? Laura knelt down, bringing herself to Theo's level. I said thank you for letting me borrow your dad, for sharing your Fridays, for showing me that sad people can become happy again. Theo hugged her tight. You don't have to borrow him anymore. You can keep him. We can share. Over Theo's shoulder, Laura met James's eyes again. He smiled and she smiled back. And in that moment, everything felt possible. The future was unwritten, but for the first time since loss had entered her world, Laura was ready to write it. Slowly, carefully, with these two people who'd shown her that love doesn't end. It just transforms into something new.